to introduce my players before we get started. First up, we have Bob, played by.
Oh, you surprised me. This is Barska, and I am playing Bob, a tiefling warlock, who's just a little bit grumpy.
Excellent. Next up, I have a player playing twin characters, the Fixer Upper and Snake, played by.
Ryanaga. Snake is a Yanti sorcerer of the draconic origin, and Fixer Upper is a half-orc war priest.
Marvelous. Next, we have Melrath, who is played by.
Starmy827, and Melrath is a Dwarven Eldritch Knight.
Excellent. And last but far from least, we have Tazarath, played by.
Cerulean, and yeah, everybody's chuckling because I'm probably least.
Too true, too true. So,
Dear diary.
last time when our adventures were intrepid, does anybody remember what the fuck happened?
Nope.
We met a mind flayer.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, a nice one.
Yeah. So I am realizing right now that I did not actually keep. I did not actually rearrange my stuff because we hadn't started the next thing. But yes, Chris is correct. Last time the party met Grazilax. He is a mind flayer who works for the Society of Brilliance. He is in fact its founder, and he has informed the party that the Deep King, the leader of Gracklestug, has mobilized his armies against a group of kobold geologists for reasons unknown, but he declares them to be enemies of the city, and Grazilax is going to investigate that claim because strange things are happening in the Underdark. Now, I actually think that that might really have been the end of that particular set of adventures and whatnot. So,
I think it was just because we ran out of time.
okay. Right. So we'll just pick right the fuck up where we left off. So at this point, um, what I want to do, close that, leave that where it is for now. What I'd like to do, you guys have talked to Grazilax. I'm pretty sure we concluded that conversation and he has made his way back to the city. His parting request was that if you see any of his companions, and he mentioned one in specific, and I don't remember who it was off the top of my head, if you see him in Blingdenstone, let him know that, he's on his way to Gracklestug. So, right, there's only one other exit out of the cavern, so I'm just going to have you guys march your way down that direction. As you guys are coming along, the tunnel that you're going through is really craggy, and it looks like there might be some sort of long since cooled volcanic material that made this particular cave. It looks like it almost might be pumice. And so, as you guys are going along through this cave, the fixer-upper is, trying to keep a sharp eye out. Sorry, I say cave, tunnel. It is a tunnel. Um, it's a wide one, however. It's a good 25 feet across. It goes up 12 feet, so it's very wide. And you guys are keeping an eye out because with all that width, you don't want to get ambushed. So the fixer-upper is looking around. He notices that if you were coming the opposite direction, on the right, you would see that there's another passageway. It's actually kind of hidden, but his passive perception picked up on it. Now, this tunnel
Excellent.
extends out for a good 32 feet beyond your current location, but there's a point that diverges off to the right. You guys can ignore it or keep going.
What's forward?
Well, Neverlight Grove is that direction. That's where you guys are ultimately headed.
Could we
so-
ask Stool what's down that direction?
Stool concentrates for a moment, and then he looks up at you and as cheerfully as a telepathic voice can, says something along the lines of, "Well, I can tell you Neverlight Grove's not that way, so I have no idea."
We should have eaten him.
Morals.
What is this morals thing you speak of?
Oh, let me type it out for you.
I say we just keep going straight.
Okay.
Oh, mushrooms. I get it.
I
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. It was real good.
don't really care either way. Does anyone have a counter argument?
Not particularly.
All right then.
Okay. The party continues off, following this cave to its conclusion. It narrows towards the end, and you continue down another passageway that bends sharply to the left, and it goes down on a not a super steep slope, but steep enough that you kind of have to do that careful thing where you angle your feet as you're walking down an incline. And after a distance, you come to a cave that opens up. Um, this one is a bit more tall than it is wide, and all over the place there are a variety of fungus that grow in here. A lot of the caves that you've been through have been mostly devoid of fungal life. This one in particular has a number of fungal spores that are in the air. Um, they're they're about the size of a ping pong ball, and they're very fluffy, and they are exuding soft purple light. So the entirety of this cave has a purple glow to it, and the fungal spores don't seem to be moving. They're just drifting aimlessly throughout the cavern, um, and yeah. So inside there is a small stream um, that cuts through one section of the wall to your right, and it comes from the north and heads to the south where it goes underneath the wall again. And it creates this little tiny moat that's like 2 feet across. The stream itself is probably no more than 3 or 4 inches deep, um, but it is enough to humidify the air here, which is encouraging all the fungal growth. And as you look around, you notice that there is a entrance on the other side of this moat to some other space, and from that space, um, there is a green light that is spilling out.
So
Now,
purple glow and green light.
yes,
Okay.
now on the far end of this cavern, which is a good 53 feet away or so, far down that way, there's another exit that seems to branch off in a path to the left and a path to the right. So that's the far end. There's the green glow, and there's fungus everywhere. What will you do?
Well, I like hearing colors personally. So right now the green light is telling me to come closer.
Okay.
Yeah, let's learn to
Learn to what?
smell music.
Oh, excellent. So as you guys head over in the direction of the green light, the room beyond is surprising in that it appears that until recently the orifice through which the light is spilling was a cave wall. And for some reason, either because of geological shift or some animal, the wall has collapsed and there's all sorts of stone and rubble all over the other side. But beyond it, what you can see is that the room is rectangular and well, actually, hold on a second. I gotta grab something. Is it this one? No. Is it this one? I'll do my best. Um, it's kind of rectangular, and there is a strange altar on the other side, and atop the altar, there is some sort of box that's vaguely humanoid shaped. It seems to be encrusted with gems. And the green light that is occurring comes from um, behind this jewel encrusted box. There's something like a backplate or something to the altar that you can't really see that's glowing green.
All right. This looks potentially dangerous, but potentially enticing. So shall I roll a certain skill check, or for I'm going down the list right here.
Oh yeah, I can help you out. So if you
Okay.
want to know more about the altar, the first thing that I have to tell you is that due to the distance that you are from it, if you want to get any information about it, you're going to need to be closer so you can inspect it. So that means you're going to have to enter the room and you're going to have to be no more than 5 feet away from it. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Somebody go touch it. I dare you.
No.
Anybody that wants to go and investigate it should attempt to make religion checks because it appears to be, an altar, and that obviously has religious origins. And please
Hata.
excuse that horrible noise.
Wow, 22. I think we got it.
Yeah. I think that for once, Tazarath is coming in super handy. So you guys walk up, and okay, I just wanted to give Kyle a chance just in case.
Wah, wah.
So everybody walks up to inspect the altar. Nobody touches it, of course, but you're wandering around a little bit, and there is on the back of the altar, because the okay, on the back of the altar, because the board comes a decent bit away from it. There's like a backsplash, for lack of a better term, because I can't think of the right one right now. Oh, I'm going to interrupt for just a second. For the last 4 nights, I have had very shitty sleep. All throughout the day, I've been saying one word when I mean another word, because that's about how tired I am.
Ooh.
So if I say something weird, just stop me and ask what the fuck I meant. But that's why I'm having that particular issue, and I
We'll
just
just
want to.
blame Serlin for cutting out. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. I like that. Always blame Chris. So,
That's fair.
so as we're looking at the back plate for this thing, there is a large white skull with a very peculiar design, and from its eyes are two pinpricks of green light, but they're very intense. Like, not so much that it hurts to look at it, but almost that intense, and it makes you feel very unsettled. And only Snake and Tazarath are the ones to recognize it and start to recoil. And as you recognize that symbol and look at the state of the rest of the altar, it all comes together. And Tazarath turns to the party and states, "This is an altar to Myrkul."
Oh.
Now, most
The
of you.
French, the German ambassador.
No, no, that would be actually far preferable. This is how it's spelled.
Not if you're Greek, but anyway, continue.
Oh, Myrkul.
So,
Myrkul.
for anyone who may not know, um, due to the wonderful roll you got, Myrkul is the old god of death for this plane, which is called Faerun. A long, long time ago, Myrkul was an enemy to all living beings. He was an abject terror. He killed for the sake of killing. He loved the undead and hoped that they would eventually replace life on the plane, and he would rule over that as an unstoppable tyrant. So, hold on a second.
So a little quirky, but once you get to know him, he's not a bad guy.
No, he is one of the most profoundly evil gods to ever exist.
Oh.
Now, Myrkul,
But you said used to be. Is it different now?
yes, as I was about
Okay.
to say,
Oh.
Myrkul was actually eventually defeated, and he was defeated by. Oh, my note is a little hard to read. I just want to look it up because I think it's interesting. Here's what I was looking for. Oh my God, go away. Right. Okay. Myrkul was eventually defeated by Cyric. Cyric was often called the Mad God and the Prince of Lies. He also took the position of the God of Death, and he also had some domains over trickery. He was also a mortal at one point, and he ascended to godhood, and he managed to quote unquote kill Myrkul. Now, when he managed to kill Myrkul, um, Myrkul used his godly powers, the last of it, to send out a message to all living creatures everywhere, and I mean on all the planes. He declared that death could not hold him. He was a master of it, not the other way around, and that in the end, he would be back one day, and he would be certain that when he did, he would take his revenge on every living creature, and he
Ooh.
would finally make good on his promise to annihilate the world, and he was going to more or less quit fucking around about it. So when that happened, like
Jesus
generally
Christ.
prior to that moment, um, because here's the other thing, like he is a giant white skull, like in black robes, so like suddenly you're wandering about your daily life and you and every other person has an image of death in that way, swearing he's going to murder your ass. You better believe that every single person on Faerun was abjectly terrified. And so prior to this, like I said, only the insane worshipped Myrkul, or necromancers. That was kind of it. And once Myrkul made that claim, all races, good and evil, went on a crusade throughout the world to find every single altar, temple, anything to Myrkul. They wanted to destroy every single one of them to make certain that he had no ties back to Faerun. Because if he doesn't have any altars left, he has no ways left with which to interact with the world. As long as an altar exists, a creature can worship at it, and if they can worship at it, they might actually succeed in bringing him back.
Hmm.
So they basically got rid of his Horcruxes.
Sort of. So ultimately, the current god of death is a man named Kelemvor, and Kelemvor was also a mortal. He killed Cyric, and he was a paladin, and he was a lawful neutral paladin. So Kelemvor is uh, he's a better god of death in that he doesn't love the undead. He views death as a natural part of life, not something
Hmm.
to bring on early for his own purposes, but that he has to do it, otherwise the living would overrun and create suffering on Faerun. And so, out of his love of his home, he wears this mantle so that no evil force can wield it, if that makes sense. So that is the current state of affairs and a whole bunch of exposition, but that is exactly what you are faced with. Now, the other thing is, on this altar, this jeweled um, coffin of sorts, it happens to bear some symbols on it that indicate that inside of this coffin may be some entity that was important to or a servant of Myrkul.
Well, that's not terrifying.
The rest of the room, completely empty, completely featureless. In fact, prior to all of to the destruction of that one wall, there were no doors into or out of this place, which likely means that when it was created, the beings that worshipped Myrkul here, whenever that was, likely teleported into and out of this room to ensure that it would not be found.
Hmm.
So now that you have found it, what will you do?
We gotta wreck that altar.
Okay. You can absolutely defile the altar, and destroy the divine connection within it. However, in order to do that, you do have to, at bare minimum, move the coffin. You don't necessarily have to open it, but you have to take it off the altar, place it on the floor, so that you can destroy the altar itself, which is arguably the most important part here.
All right. I which should I cast first? Find traps or detect magic?
Actually, either one is appropriate. Obviously, find traps will let you know if actually, you know what? Let me look up find traps so I can make sure I'm correct about what you should and shouldn't know.
Okay.
Spells. Um, you're a cleric, so let's do find. There it is. Okay. I have good news about your spell find traps and an important one. Generally speaking, when it comes to find traps, the thing that you most often come across is mechanical traps, and that's what you use your perception to try to locate when you're checking things for traps, right? Something I was unaware of is that find traps also reveals um, spells that would affect um, an
Oh, alarm
object.
spells, glyph of warding. Okay, I see.
Yes. And those are really important because, like, let's say that you check a door and you check it and you see no mechanical traps and you get like a
Hmm.
20. You open the door and the glyph of warding goes off and it just blows you to shit. Um, and there's really no good way
Not
around.
recommended.
Yeah, there's no good way around it except for find traps. So I just wanted to point out that you also saw after that it doesn't reveal natural weaknesses in a floor, an unstable ceiling, or a hidden sinkhole. It reveals effects or
Hmm.
mechanical objects that are intended to cause harmful or undesirable effects um, on people that open things or move things or touch things, that sort of thing. So
Okay,
that's what we're
I will
talking
cast
about.
that.
You cast it. Um, Fortunately, it seems that there is no undesirable effect intended for touching or moving the coffin, or opening it for that matter.
All right, then I will cast detect magic.
Okay. Um, the altar itself glows dimly of magic. Um, Religious objects have their own divine magic. It doesn't usually register as strongly as arcane magic. Um,
Hmm.
and the sarcophagus itself is not magic, but there may be something magical within it because it takes just an inch of material to block detect magic.
Um, do I learn any information on that faint sense of what school it is?
Oh, well, yes, sort of. Um, what I was trying to get across before is while there are normally schools when it's related to arcane magic, um, when it comes to divine magic, you don't necessarily know a school for it. I just,
Oh,
as a
okay.
courtesy, like you're technically not even supposed to be able to read divine magic, but in my opinion, based on information about Faerun and based on information from Mistra, um, I believe that you should be able to sense something is or is not divine through detect magic because of the way that that world operates, the rules.
Can you also sense the alignment of said magic, or is that going too far?
And that's going too far. But
Oh,
you, as a paladin, happen to have a skill, Divine Sense, something that you personally have not used. As an action, you can open your awareness to detect the forces of good or evil. Until the end of your next turn, you know the location of any celestial, fiend, or undead within 60 feet of you that is not behind total cover. You also know the type, whether it's celestial, fiend, or undead, of any being whose presence you sense, but not its identity. So you would be able to detect the vampire, but you wouldn't necessarily know it was Count Strahd von Zarovich. Do you know what I mean?
right.
Right.
Well, I've got 4 uses per day, and this seems like a pretty good time to do it.
One
So,
last thing. Within the same radius, you can also detect the presence of any place or object that has been consecrated or desecrated, as with the Hallow spell. So that was why I brought it up, because obviously, there are no creatures in the room that you can see. So, Chris, sorry, Tazarath kneels. Um, he steeples his fingers and goes into deep concentration. Um, and after a moment, you open up your eyes. They burn with an infernal flame, and you are able to take in the divinity of the room around you. You can sense that this entire room has been massively desecrated. And actually, just real quick, I think it's under
What
Hallow.
is it? What exactly does that mean? Pardon.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm about to go into it. Let me just expand that out. Now, they had said that this was per the Hallow spell, so and I didn't find a spell called Desecrate, so I'm going to assume it's under the same thing. So, you touch a point and infuse an area around it with holy or unholy power. The area can have a radius of up to 60 feet, which covers the area of this room. Um, the area is subject to the following effects. Celestials, elementals, fae, fiend, and undead cannot enter the area, nor can such creatures charm, frighten, or possess any creature within it. If any creature was charmed, frightened, blah, 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 it would no longer be so upon entering the area. You can also choose, if you're the one casting it, to exclude one or more of those types of effects or types of those creatures from this effect. So, for example, if you really wanted Celestials to be frightened or possessed or something like that upon entering a desecrated space, that could be so. With me so far?
Right.
Okay.
So we could unallow it for the undead, basically.
Mhm. Second, you can bind an extra effect to the area. And then there's a list down below. So some of the different types of effects that could be on an area. Courage. All affected creatures can't be frightened while in the area. Darkness. Darkness fills the area. Normal light as well as magical light created as spells of a lower level spell slot used to cast this spell can't illuminate the area. And Hollow is a 5th level spell. Daylight, bright light fills the area. Same deal with darkness of lower level slots. Energy protection. Affected creatures in the area have resistance to one damage type of your choice, except for bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing. Energy vulnerability. Affected creatures in the area have vulnerability to a particular type, one particular damage type. Everlasting rest. Dead bodies interred in the area can't be turned into the undead, which is definitely not an effect here. Extra dimensional interference. Affected creatures can't move or travel using teleportation or by extra dimensional or interplanar means. Fear. Affected creatures are frightened while in the area. Silence. No sound can emanate from within the area, and no sound can reach into it. Tongues. All affected creatures can communicate with any other creature in the area, even if they don't share a common language. So, this area is desecrated, and if you want to try to figure out more information about what that means, you're going to have to roll a religion check. And I will give you some information, but will not guarantee that that is all the information there is to know about the effect on this room, as you are not the caster of it.
Hmm.
That makes sense. Damn it, Eric. Oh, okay. Well, Snake would have gotten it anyways. And Bob came close. So, actually, Melrath and Snake, go around the room. They bring Tazarath with them. He points out some of the different sort of effects because the desecration geometry in this room is really complex. There are lots of different shapes, and you're sort of pointing it out because you can see them and they cannot. And you guys are talking, you're collaborating, you're trying to figure out what's going on here. And what you determine what you determine is that definitely undead can enter the area. Um, they cannot be affected by charmed, frightened, or possessed effects, which means that any attempts to turn undead here cannot be made because they will automatically fail. There is an extra effect on the room, but you are not entirely certain which one it is. It can't be darkness, it can't be daylight. It's unlikely to be courage because that's already covered by an effect above. Um, it can't be everlasting rest because Myrkul loved the undead. Um, and it's probably not fear because there's no point in making the undead fearful. It's definitely not silence because you can all talk, and it's not tongues because you can test that. So the remaining options are extra dimensional interference, energy protection, and energy vulnerability. And since it can only affect the undead, energy vulnerability can also be crossed off the list by process of elimination.
It's probably some sort of energy. And I say this because you were saying this was a sealed chamber previously, right?
Mm-hmm.
and so they probably teleported in and out. So
Right. However, and I have to be very specific about this, celestials, elementals, fae, and fiends may not move or travel using teleportation by extra-dimensional or interplanar means. If the cultists were dwarves, human, elves, all the humanoid races, they could teleport into and out of this room without fear. So it can still be extra-dimensional interference, and that would probably be wise to hide it from the sight of celestials, but that's not guaranteed to be what it is. So you guys have narrowed it down to two choices, 50-50, and that's the information that you've learned.
So you still want to move that, Serlin?
Can we have Ront do it?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
mostly I'm just in the mode of trying desperately to figure out a way to dispel this.
Oh, actually,
And-
it's really not hard. Your earlier religion checks gives you the information that you need. You know that you need to make these types of like what's the word I'm looking for? When somebody like chisels out a symbol, you sort of scratch out.
Carving,
Yeah, carving, I guess. You scratch or
etching.
carve out some of the symbols that are on this thing. You need to break the symbol to Myrkul. It doesn't hurt to use a hammer to like break off some chunks of the altar. Um, and basically, you guys are going to do your best to not completely reduce it to rubble, but break it up a whole bunch. And the altar itself is made of granite, so it's not impossible to do. It's just going to take you guys a little while. You don't even need to roll for it. You can just do it. But like I said, in order to do that, you have to take the coffin off because you got to break up the altar itself. Now, the only other thing that you could do, which is not strictly necessary, if one of you had a ceremony spell and was of good alignment, you could create, or neutral, you could create holy water, and holy water would make the entire process significantly easier and less time consuming. But as far as I know, nobody has holy water in their inventory.
It'd be nice if we still had
Yeah,
those
I don't think so.
fireballs. We could just bomb the whole place.
Well, even that actually really won't help you here, sadly.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Anyways, so really all you have to tell me is that you guys are comfortable with moving the coffin and who's going to do it.
I mean, it sounds like. Didn't you say that there's nothing in it? Or
Well, you don't know if there's anything in it. No one's opened it, but you do know that there are no traps preventing you from lifting it,
oh, okay.
opening it, or touching it.
But does that mean there could be some sort of spirit or entity inside?
Yes, and there almost certainly is based on some of the information on the outside of it.
Ew.
So could
Hmm?
is the coffin connected to the lid, or can I push the coffin off the lid and like hold whatever is inside the coffin using my weight and Ront's weight?
Okay. So with this particular coffin, if you are looking at it from the feet towards the head, on the right-hand side there are two large hinges. On the left-hand side, there's the seam that goes all the way, around and underneath those hinges. Um, if you guys, I think Melrath and Ront are the strongest characters in the party. So if Melrath and Ront decide to be the two people to just lift it up and move it over, nothing would force you to open it in the process of moving it. Does that answer your question?
I guess.
Does it answer the question or not? I'm not sure what you were asking.
I was mostly going to try and just shove the coffin haphazardly and make sure it was upside down.
Oh, that would cause the contents to spill out for sure. Yes,
But it seems like you're saying, Alex, there's a potential for us to move it without taking the lid off.
correct. The lid will not pop open if you guys just sort of, you know, lift from the bottom and move it over to the off of the altar and then place it on the floor.
I like that idea more. It is less sleep deprivation.
Okay. So, cool. Eric, are you up for this?
Yep.
Okay. So, Eric and Ron, sorry, Melrath and Ron, take up their positions on either end of this, and everybody stands back to give them a wide berth so that nobody accidentally gets tripped over or anything. The two of you lift with your knees, and oh, I'm sorry, Ron lifts with his knees. Eric or Melrath lifts with his back because he's a dwarf, and the two of you are able to slide it over very smoothly. You move it a good 12 feet away from the altar itself and then lay it down. There's definitely something inside. It's not moving at the moment, but it is heavy enough that you were able to sense that there's something in there. And it kind of rocked just a little bit when you first lifted it up. But that was just, weight distribution as you were moving it about. So it's been placed down, and the altar is now exposed. The green light is still just as intense as it ever was, and man, is that stare from that symbol really unnerving.
Kill it with fire.
Okay, so at this point, obviously, after having done all that work, you guys are going to defile the statue. So basically, everybody takes out any, bludgeoning object that they have from their packs, and you all just descend upon it, just, whacking the altar as best you can, punching it, tipping it over. You actually push it off of its base. The Myrkul's symbol is shattered. And the instant that it is, the green lights suddenly wink out of existence, and you could swear that you hear some tortured scream as this occurs. Um, the altar is taken apart in under 5 minutes. You guys really don't need an awful lot of. Oh, I was mistaken. It's actually Melrath and the Fixer, or Fixer Upper, who have the best strength in the party. My bad. Anyways, um,
Poor Rond.
you destroy the altar. The altar is done for. You still have Detect Magic up because it lasts for 10 minutes.
Right.
So you are now at this point certain that whatever divine spark or connection was present in this altar is thoroughly extinguished. And you actually, feel a lot better. Like you hadn't realized the level of anxiety that you had in this moment until the thing, is divine no more.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Let's-
Anything else, or are you headed out?
Do we want to figure out what's in the coffin?
There's
It
only
might.
one way to do that.
I mean, whatever it is, it might burst out and like create more undead.
Well, it did take
If
you
it's
guys like 5 minutes to defile the statue, so if there was anything quote unquote awake in there, it did have time to pop out already.
we know there's no traps.
Okay.
All right. Curiosity killed the Chris. Open it up.
Should
Yeah.
I take a vote?
I'm down.
I want him to open it.
Okay. We're just gonna open it then. That's 3 people. I'm good. So,
Let's check if you want Chris to open it.
yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
I'll
Chris.
do it.
Yeah, Chris is gonna open it now. What is everybody else doing? Because in the event that something happens, I want to know accurately where everyone is.
Taking cover.
There is no cover in the room, actually. It is large. Like you can get to other ends of the room. You could leave the room entirely. Those are kind of your two options. But aside
What's our
from that,
distance right now?
what do you mean?
Our distance from the coffin.
Oh, you guys are like 12 feet or less.
12
Yeah.
feet or less. Okay. I will cast spiritual weapon
Okay, so you're gonna cast it so that it's near
in response to um if something comes out.
Okay, so you're gonna hold an action to cast spiritual weapon if something should pop out of the coffin.
Although I guess I don't really need to do that because it's a bonus action. Yeah. All
Okay.
right. I'll check
wait
what.
Wait a second. It's not locked, is it? I could thaumaturgy it from a distance.
Thaumaturgy doesn't work like that, but yes, you could use a magical effect from a distance to open it.
But not thaumaturgy?
Thaumaturgy creates a number of effects, but the spell you're thinking of is Mage Hand. Mage Hand allows you to open and close things.
Oh. Well,
You
I have Mage Hand.
instantaneously cause an unlocked door or window to fly open or slam shut. I realize it's not really a door, but it's
Right,
It's something
and
with
what I'm trying to
hinges.
tell you is that in this particular instance, Thaumaturgy is not a strong enough spell to open the thing.
Just
So
use
can
Mage Hand.
I cast Mage Hand?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Please
Uh,
do.
But to conclude, what is everybody doing? Are you all out of the room? Are you all spread out? Are you close to it with your weapons drawn so you can smash something's skull in? What's your choice?
Fixer Upper will be close.
Okay.
Snake will be about 30 feet away.
Okay.
I'll be close.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I have to be, right?
Have to be? No. The range
You have
on the
Mage
spell
Hand.
is 30 feet.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll be as close as the others. Prepared for anything to jump out.
Okay. And Melrath, you're the last one.
Right behind Tazrath.
Okay. So,
Meat Shield by Cerulean. Because you're worth it.
you guys flip open the lid to the coffin, and inside there is a humanoid body, and that instantly becomes less important than the symbol carved into the underside of the lid, which causes all of the color to drain from Tazarath and Snake's face. Well, actually, I guess color can't drain from Snake's face, but it still happens to Tazarath. The symbol on the inside is that of Akachi. Akachi was Myrkul's fuck, I lost the word. Give me a second. Avatar.
Second and
Avatar on Faerun.
oh.
And it was in question. By the way, just as a brief aside to put everything in perspective, Kalimvor is the current god of death. I believe he took over like less than 20 years ago from Cyric. Cyric ruled from about less than 20 years ago to 300 years ago. No, 400 or 500 years ago. And then Myrkul ruled from 500 years ago to the beginning of recorded history on Faerun. So it's been like 500 years since Myrkul has been about. But anyways, the records that did survive mentioned that Akachi, people weren't really sure whether he was immortal or not. He was definitely Myrkul's avatar, and he was known for wiping out entire villages, battalions, and keeps single-handedly.
Huh.
Then he raised all of them as the undead and made them, massage his feet. So, the being inside is wearing black armor. It has the symbol of Myrkul all over it, white skulls in a checker pattern all across the surface, and exactly as you expected, it begins to stir and stand.
Oh,
So
great.
yeah, everybody should roll initiative,
Damn it.
and I'm gonna go grab the creature I need.
Well, I'm going to tank a bunch of attacks before I actually get to act.
This one.
We're blaming you for this, by the way.
NPCs, here's what I'm looking for.
Well, I already knew that.
Okay. And I'm 90% sure. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. So I'm just going to pull this into here and then turn off ID, unhide the creature, and I'll leave this over here so I can see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're all set.
Can you show us the map? Wherever it is?
No, this is some content that I created with the assistance of the book. So
Okay.
yeah, like I can put a map down if we want. I have sharing share sheet. I'm just gonna unmask this for a second. There we go. I have this map, and this map does allow me to just like have a space with a grid where we can do battles and stuff. But as you can see, it doesn't really have the dimensions that I was describing. So if you guys really
Right.
want a map, I can make use of this, and I can, make some drawings. Like what I can do is go pointers, draw square, whoa, draw square, and then go like this, and then, everybody places themselves within this square. We just use it on the grid.
I mean, as long as it stays to a whatever 9 of us there are, how many there are of us on one, I don't think it's really that important. But yeah, if you
Yeah.
start summoning stuff,
That's where I was coming from.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a big deal.
No.
And
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put this away. But
I
this is the
didn't know if you
only.
had a map or not. Okay.
I've tried to put maps into this thing that I created myself. I've gotten inconsistent results from it, and so I just am tired of trying. Anyways, so the creature's in here. Everybody's rolled. The only thing that I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna.
Should we use the filter of love on it?
There we go. That honestly is that's on Melrath because he's the one who has it.
Yeah, so speaking of,
Yeah,
can
Melrath
I
is
identify this?
You can try. It's going to be a religion check, as you might expect.
Can we all roll now?
On your turn,
Or
you
just
can roll.
Melrath? Okay.
Melrath fails
It's
to
a big
identify
scary
the
thing.
creature. Yeah, and so
That's all he cares about.
wait a minute.
Oh, I'm just going to double stab it.
Give me just a second before you stab it. I want to try something. Okay, now try.
Stabby, stabby, stabby.
Okay. That probably worked. So use your attack.
Is this guy undead?
Yeah, I was going to ask that because I get
Or do we
bonus
not know?
damage.
You get what?
I get bonus damage if he's undead.
It turns out he is in fact undead, surprisingly enough.
Excellent.
So there's a bonus 4, and then I get another attack, right?
Hold on a second. Let me just apply this first. There we go. Yes, you do get a bonus attack. Or an extra attack because of a class feature. Okay.
And then another one.
So this goes to there. And excellent. So that's Melrath's turn. The creature itself is up now. Let me just check something. One creature. Okay.
The creature.
Oh. Rats. The creature whirls on Bob, who was in close range to the coffin, and swings his bare fist at you.
His bare fist?
Yes.
Are we going to start doing bear puns?
Yes. Even though he's
It's
an undead
already
creature.
unbearable.
Because that.
Tis only natural. So, anyways, the creature's fist swings at you. You manage to dodge out of the way. You guys are noticing that this creature actually seems rather decrepit. Like it hasn't landed any attacks. Wait a minute. 1 second. Oh, okay. It turns out it actually has a multi-attack that I didn't see. So give me just a second.
I would hope so, yeah.
I'm gonna find a target for this.
Tazarath, take 90 damage.
Wow. So, right, it swings its rotting fist and then it whirls and looks directly at Snake and it tries to look into your soul. Green pinpricks of light flare up incredibly brightly, but Snake somehow the power of his soul resists the dreadful glare of this creature. And that, unfortunately, is the end of his turn. So Ront gets to go, and Ront
Me
was,
smash corpse.
I was
yeah.
gonna say, what does Ront say?
Ront says, "Time to regenify," and he
Of course
manages
he
to hit.
hits.
It does a decent amount of damage, but the effect of his great axe is not as excellent as one would have hoped. It seems that the armor or the undead flesh itself is resistant to his weapon.
What
Bob,
what damage type is that axe? Is it slashing?
sure, give me just a second. It is slashing.
Haha.
Okay, you are dealing with a mummy.
Ah, garden
Um,
variety.
I
Well,
think
that
that.
wasn't as great as I expected.
What do you mean?
Mummy's alive.
Wait, what do you mean it wasn't as great as you expected? You got a 20.
Just a mummy. Meh. I
Ah,
thought it was like a special mummy.
it is. It has modified stats. But most
Oh.
importantly of all, um, when it comes to mummies, I'm sure you guys are largely aware of a lot of their features. This particular creature is capable of inflicting mummy rot on a target that it hits with its melee attack.
Ooh.
In the event that you get cursed with mummy rot, you can't regain hit points, period, and your hit point maximum decreases by 10 every 24 hours that elapse. And actually, technically, it's 3d6, and I'll roll that 3d6 because I'd like to go big and get the full 18, you know. Anyways, if the curse reduces the target's hit point maximum to 0, the target dies and the body turns to dust. The curse lasts until it is removed only by a remove curse spell or more powerful magic. And
Yeah,
actually,
it's pretty bad.
let me check something real quick. Players
Do
may
we know
remove
what he's
spell.
resistant or immune to?
Yes, I'm about to go into that long list.
Sorry.
It's okay. Kurt, what the fuck?
It's
Oh,
probably
I'm
resistant to psychic.
cleric. Here's what I was looking for. Remove.
Yeah, I would guess.
Uh,
Remove curse is a 3rd level spell. Just so you know, so because it means that you need that 3rd level spell or a 4th, 5th, 6th, etc. that has similar effects. So, anyways, damage vulnerabilities: fire, damage resistances, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks. It is flat out immune to necrotic and poison. It is immune to the conditions of charmed, exhaustion, frightened, paralyzed, and poisoned. Um, it has dark vision. Uh, it also has a dreadful glare.
Mhm.
It can use that on a creature it can see within 60 feet of it. If they fail, they become frightened until the end of the mummy's next turn. But if the target fails a saving throw by 5 or more, it is also paralyzed for the same duration. A target that succeeds on the saving throw is immune to dreadful glare of all mummies for the next 24 hours.
Cool.
Okay, so with that extensive
So
nonsense,
no resistance or immunity to psychic.
none.
Huh.
oh,
There
interesting.
you go.
Close that. And Bob,
It's Bob's
what do you
lucky
do?
day.
1d10. So here's a question. Mind Spike says when you cast a spell using a spell slot of 3rd or higher, the damage increases by 1d6.
Hmm.
Is that automatic or do I have to roll that additional?
Oh, you mean by the program?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Let me check.
I mean, I can try it right now and then just roll an extra one, but it'd be nice if it didn't do it. Or if it did.
Wait a minute. That's weird. I'm hang tight for a second. I want to look something up.
Okay.
Oh, let me just. Oh, okay. Um, okay. So go away. What was weird was I was looking at Mind Spike and it says at higher levels it should be a D6. The damage increases by, and I'm like, but it uses 3d8. So that doesn't make any sense. Why would the dice change? And I just found a link that confirms that it should actually be a D8. It was a upscaling error.
Oh,
So, anyways,
interesting.
in answer to your actual question, no, it is not included here. However, there we go. I have now modified that spell
Huh.
to do 48, and I'm just going to check Hellish Rebuke. Hellish Rebuke should be D10 for each spell slot above the first. So it should actually be
Failure.
4d10. So I grab this, multiply it, drop it. So that's reflected. And lastly, Dissonant Whispers. D6 per. Okay, so click here, grab 2, drop. Now, is there anything else? That's a spell, that's a spell. Water breathing. You have water breathing?
Yeah.
Mm. Wow, up to 10 willing creatures.
It
Okay,
was one of
so
my evocations, I think.
excellent. Okay, sorry about that. So now that's all been settled.
Okay. So
Mummy
he
fails.
fails.
Yep, so you
Yeah.
get to roll your damage. And it rolled correctly.
Sweet.
The mummy takes the mind spike appears as a protrusion from your forehead. The
Great.
the greenish light gives it an orange hue this time, and as your unicorn horn extends, it suddenly rockets across the room, impacting the mummy full in the head, and you've actually blown off the upper right quadrant of his skull. It's just gone. It was annihilated
Nice.
by the psychic damage, and the mummy actually looks like it's in really bad shape. So well done on that front. Spiderbait is
Yeehaw.
up, and he's going to fire off his short bow. He misses. And then
Kill shot for
Fargus.
Vargas,
We know Fargus can do it.
Yep.
And oh,
naturally.
Fargus, bring it home, baby. Oh. So he only manages to do 2 points of damage. The mummy lord continues to stand, but it has a arrow sticking out of its lower jaw. And Sareth is going to attempt to be gone, undead creature. No.
He's going to attempt to make out with him.
Oh,
So you got an arrow in the jaw, huh? Snake, you're up.
Come on, Snake. Finish this guy off. I thought you were going to tell us this was like the body of Myrkul or something.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
That would freak me out.
Seems you guys got lucky, actually.
well, if I hit, it'll kill him because he's weak against fire. So I'll just use a firebolt.
Okay.
I'll drop it on his head.
Oh, excellent. You
Boom.
hit.
Wait, it says Melrath.
I hit
Uh,
Mummy.
Why
I
are
know
you
I dropped it on
attacking
Mummy.
Melrath?
just make sure you drop the damage on Mummy.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry. Boom.
Excellent.
Nice.
You managed to your firebolt streaks across the room. It looks like it's going to hit Eric, and then it suddenly shifts to the left, and it hits the mummy, and he explodes. Like that mummy was a tinderbox.
Yeah, literally double damage.
Yeah, he just goes right up in flames. It burns away all of the undead flesh, and the armor collapses to the ground atop the now shattered bones under the weight of the armor.
All from a cantrip.
Indeed. Now, it turns out that although the armor itself is absolutely not of any value, um, like it's full plate, but no one's gonna buy this from you when it has like Myrkul's face all over it. Like
hmm
it doesn't matter. It negates any value it might have had. However, inside of the sarcophagus, there are um, two pitch black pearls, and they are absolutely perfect. They are probably extremely valuable, and it looks like it's probably going to be about 500 gold pieces per.
Woo.
In addition to which, give me a moment because I have to pull this up from. Here we go.
So
Do we
we're
know
getting.
if do we know if they have any magic properties?
Well, technically, since battle takes place over 6 seconds, I could say that detect magic is still going. They do not have any properties that are magical. However, excuse me, down at the bottom of the sarcophagus, there is a ring. That ring is glowing with magic.
Dare somebody to put it on.
Who? Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
mummies never have cursed rings.
never. Now, do you guys remember
Never.
how curse detection works? Excuse me. You guys remember how
Not
curse?
exactly.
Okay. Um, well then. So, in this edition, you can sit down with an object and quote attune with it. This allows you to both use the object and it also tells you what the object does. And that is for free. Any character in the entire game can do it, doesn't matter. However, the only problem with that is that attunement, excuse me, the attunement does not tell you whether or not an object is actually free of curses. Because a curse could tell you, for example, oh, if you put this ring on, you can turn into a dragon. And then you put the ring on, and it suddenly swaps your gender from male to female. Because the
You say
curse.
that like it's a bad thing.
I mean, you would have a fantastic beard, but anyways, that's what I'm talking about. Like curses can obscure the actual magical effect of an object.
Is there a way to actually identify it then? I mean,
The
is there a higher
identify
level
spell.
spell?
No, the spell is identified. That's it. That's the only one. It is a wizard or sorcerer or bard spell, I believe.
I'm gonna look it up because I need to get it.
Yeah, it's just a level. It's just a level 1
Uh,
spell. And actually,
Oh.
in this particular case, I don't think you need to. He's not playing tonight, obviously, but Jesus fucking Christ. Sorry, I gotta pull up. I believe Tristan took it. Actions. Wow, he didn't. Okay, cool. Yeah, he doesn't have identify.
so much for that.
Yeah, but if you guys ever find a scroll of it, you should probably give that to Tristan. Anyways, so there's a ring on the bottom here, and I'm going to go to inventory, and I'm going to drop the ring. Whoops, drop the ring into here. Okay, and then I also have to find those. Give me a second. I'm looking for the appropriate treasure because I know there's an entry for the pearls.
Oh, I don't have it.
Have what? Identify?
I don't have the capacity. It's not a sorcerer thing, so no one can blame me.
Really? That's interesting.
It's an Eldritch Knight thing, and it's a wizard thing and cleric knowledge domain, which I don't have either.
Can bards do it? I would hope so.
Yes, bards
Okay.
and arcane tricksters. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, arcane trickster. That makes a lot of sense.
So we can blame Eric.
Here we go. Okay, I found the object I was looking for. Bloop, and then just change that to 2. Okay, so who wants the pearls? Did everybody stick up all at once?
I'll take one.
Congrats, you got them both. Which character
Cool.
are you putting them on?
On Snake.
Okay. And who wants to hold the ring? The probably absolutely not cursed ring.
Fixer Upper will hold the ring. One ring.
The one ring to not curse them all. Okay, so those have been distributed. And
Yes.
I can close that out now. I can close that out now. Excellent. So you guys, having found that treasure, you poke around on the inside for a while to try to find anything else that might be in there. You do find some other symbols. It appears that for a time, Akashi, or is it Akachi? Akachi, Akachi, was drawing things on the inside of the sarcophagus, and then I guess he went to sleep? Question mark. Um, and that was kind of it. He didn't cover the entire sarcophagus or anything, but he was definitely the person that made his symbol on the inside of the lid. Um, yeah. So, anyways, the jewels that are all over the rest of the coffin, they turn to dust when Akachi dies, and they just fall into ash on the floor.
Well, that's disappointing.
Yeah, yeah, that's how these things go apparently. Right. So, unless you guys have anything else to do, at this point, you end up departing this room. There's nothing else left to do in it. So, when you come back into the main passageway, there is a hooded figure that is crouched down towards the northern end of the cavern, the direction that you were headed, um, and they are collecting some of the fungus that is growing along the wall. They have a large basket, and the robes that they're wearing are actually pretty nice robes as these things go. So yeah, they haven't seen you or heard you. They just seem to be quietly humming to themselves.
This isn't our mind flayer friend from earlier, so I don't know. Somebody humming, probably not hostile.
Only good creatures hum.
That's a scientific fact. So, are you guys just gonna walk by unnoticed? Are you gonna say hello? Or are you gonna draw your weapons and murder some hoes?
I'm sorry, how many of them were there?
There's just a single figure, all by itself.
Ah.
Back to you, humanoid.
I guess there's nothing wrong with just saying hi.
Okay. Um, the party approaches. You get within, say, 20 feet, and you shout out a friendly hello. Um, and the figure suddenly stands up and whirls to face you. Hang tight for a second. Ooh, okay. Oh no. Give me just a second. What is this? Okay. Sorry about that. So, the figure whirls, and it is a woman. She seems like she's probably in her late 30s, early 40s. Um, she has shoulder length, curly, um, sandy colored hair, a little bit blonde, a little bit auburn. Her eyes are amber, and she appears to be a human. She's about 5'10", slight build. Um, she has a beauty mark underneath her left eye, and she seems a little puzzled by the assortment of characters in front of her, and she becomes very apologetic. I'm so sorry. Are these your fungi? Am I in somebody's territory?
Nope, we're just passing through. We're headed to, I forget the name of the city. What is it?
Neverlight Grove.
Yeah.
You know the location of Neverlight Grove?
Well, we don't, but our little companion here.
Really? I don't suppose one might be able to obtain that information from you.
Danger, danger.
Mm. Yeah, I'm thinking. I'm insight rolling. Not well.
Hmm.
I can try better than that, hopefully.
Anybody who
Please
wants
do.
to can roll insight. I won't proceed until we do.
Oh, that's a little better.
Bob. Oh,
Snake will
Bob.
roll too. Ugh.
So the fixer-upper is considering this woman intently. Bob turns to the fixer-upper and he says, I really think she's on the level. Now, as for
She's on what?
on the level,
What does
she's
that mean?
okay. It means she's
Oh.
okay.
You've never heard that before?
No.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, I mean, the terminology is from like 1930s, so it's been a while.
Are you calling us old?
No, no. I mean, I watched a lot of I Love Lucy. That's how I know it.
I'm
Anyways,
just old.
so Fixer Upper, there's not an awful lot to go on because her face is um, carefully neutral, is the determination that you make. However, you notice that there is a slight imbalance in the features on her face, and that might indicate repressed anger or contempt.
Hmm.
I don't think we should tell her where it is.
You know what? I've got
Or-
more divine sense attempt. I'm going to give that another try.
I just want to, before you do that, alert you to the fact that just like um, just like with casting magic, you have to kneel, steeple your fingers, and concentrate for a decent amount of time in order to in order to make that effect occur, which is a very obvious effect.
Well, before I do that, then I will say we just cleared out a small altar room to Myrkul, of all people. I want to, before we continue, that there isn't any evil magic lingering. Deception.
Okay, I'm gonna roll a die for her as well, and then I'll add my own plus in my head. Um, so you say this, and her eyes suddenly light up with recognition and then terror. Um, and she says, "What the fuck are you talking about? There's no altar to Myrkul here."
Not anymore. I'll point in.
I
I'll point into the chamber that we were just in before beginning my divine.
She looks over there, um, and she seems very confused. That wasn't there before. What did you do? How did you find it? I've been here every once in a while for months, and I never noticed it. There was no hole in the wall when I came here last. How did you find it? Are you just going
I'm
to ignore
honest.
her and continue? Because you do have to concentrate.
I mean, this is how we found it, right? That's to you, Alex.
Yes, yes, that is. You came into the
Yeah.
room. The cave wall had collapsed inwards, and it was just
Uh-huh.
there, open and exposed.
Yeah.
Huh.
Now,
That's
people
literally.
other than Chris can talk while he's trying to concentrate. Just throw that out there.
Concentrate, Chris. um, we simply found it like this, but I don't know how to say this.
We can share the information on the guy's or the avatar guy's name and the
Oh, okay.
fight against the zombie or the mummy, excuse me.
Okay, so you guys
Yeah.
basically recount the story of all of this. Now,
Yes.
while that's happening,
Good idea.
I'm going to let Chris go ahead and continue to concentrate. So, it checks for celestials, fiends, or undead, right?
Uh, I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay. So you use your divine sense. Incidentally, now that you have reactivated it post the battle with the former body of Akachi, um, the desecration that was in the room behind you is actually cleared out. So it seems that he was projecting an aura of desecration, in addition to the other effects that he had. But as for this room, there is nothing celestial, fiend, or undead in this room, um, at present.
I'm curious as to why she is patrolling this area.
You want to ask her?
Mm. Oh, quick question before you do. I am assuming that for the purposes of that spell, neither Bob nor I count as fiend.
Yes, I'm intentionally discounting you.
Okay.
And also, if
Why, why did we party with a bunch of fiends anyway?
let me also back up. I am aware that tiefling is part of your heritage, but in the monster manual, and actually, you know what? I'm gonna check myself before I say something stupid. Monster manual, NPCs, alphabetical, TIE. Oh, wow. Okay, apparently they're just not in here. So then I'm gonna shoot my mouth off. To the best of my knowledge, tieflings, when you are a creature in the monster manual, you can only have one type. Okay, so you are a humanoid, not actually a fiend, unless there is some very specific, like class effect or race effect that says otherwise. Is there? Which is a question directed at you.
Okay.
I'm asking you a question that I need answered. Is there a class effect or race effect in the traits that actually says you are a fiend?
Not as far as I'm aware, no.
Okay, I happen to have Bob's character sheet up because I was like modifying his spells from before, and I do not see anything in here under
Yeah,
traits
I
that
don't
indicates that.
remember.
So, like,
Yep.
for example, in the monster manual, Aarakocra, which are just bird people, it says medium humanoid, and then in parentheses it says Aarakocra. So if it was an elf, it would say parentheses elf, etc., etc., etc. So the point is, you are actually humanoid. So for the purposes of that spell, you don't actually set off your own senses. Cool.
Okay.
Okay. So, having said that whole long thing, I forgot what um, Bob was gonna say.
I'm wondering why she is patrolling the area, but I don't
Oh,
know if
you don't
we
know.
want to ask her that.
We'll decide.
I mean, we told her what we're doing, so
Yeah. Does she have any reaction to what we're doing?
Um, well, at the moment, you had just finished telling the story. Um, Tazarath stands back up, and she seems very alarmed. She says, "Well, I had absolutely no idea that room was there. That's so bizarre. I can't believe that I've been coming here for so long and never had a clue that I was that close to an altar to Myrkul. Absolutely horrible."
can we roll insight on that?
Yeah, you
'Cause
can
I
roll
just
insight
find it
on
hard to
whatever you
believe.
want.
There we go.
Okay, let me roll her contested check. Okay, I know whether she succeeded or not. Here's the information that you glean. Um, she seems to be sincere in her surprise, and it registered on her face. So all of the indicators that she might be lying are absent. However, when you did go through the wall, remember I told you that room appeared to be sealed. And the only way that you can figure anyone was able to get into it was if they teleported into that location.
Hmm.
And so, whether it was from a geological effect or something like an Umber Hulk digging around, which you didn't see any signs of, like there would have been other holes if an Umber Hulk was digging around. But I'm just saying,
Right.
either an animal or a geological effect caused that instability, which broke that wall and happened to adjoin it to this cavern.
Okay.
So it seems like her story checks out.
All right.
Oh,
Well,
and I'm sorry, before we go too much further, I just want to acknowledge Bob's question. Um, the woman, the woman seems just a little bit huffy with her answer, and she says, "Well, I happen to live around here, and I've never seen you before. I'm here collecting food for dinner." And sure enough, in her little basket, her woven basket, there's a variety of fungus, which, given your identification checks earlier, you recognize as an assortment of edible fungi.
well, I can't think of a compelling reason right now to say no to the offer to go to Neverlight Grove to let her tag along. I mean, feel free
Oh,
to
she just
interject.
wants to pay for the information about like where it is and how to find it. That's what she's after. She doesn't want
Oh,
to
she doesn't
follow.
want to tag along.
No.
Okay.
Now, also the question then becomes, what Um, what exactly would you accept as payment? I can provide information of the area. I can also provide a small gem, perhaps, I think would be a fair trade.
I mean, aren't the Myconids pretty secretive about where it is and like want to protect that?
Oh, yeah, you can obviously ask Stool. Stool says,
Yeah, what's
what?
his opinion?
Excuse me. Um, The Myconids, generally speaking, are welcoming of travelers. They do, however, hide the entrance to Neverlight Grove because there are lots of Underdark species that both go to war with each other um, and might outright want to destroy the grove. So what they'll generally do is sort of let a traveler in, chat with them for a short while, if or if they're a non-drow Derogar, that sort of thing. Like if they're not one of the obviously evil races
Yeah,
that would like
humans wouldn't fall under that category.
right. So for you guys, they're likely to chat with you for a moment and try to see if they can figure out whether or not um, you might be hostile to the Myconids. If they determine you're hostile, they'll simply turn you away or drive you off if you won't leave willingly. Um, but if you seem like you're decent people, then they will likely allow you to stay. Um, and will offer to be hospitable because Neverlight Grove being hidden also makes it a place where you could rest in relative safety.
Here's a question: do they change the entrance periodically, or is it
Um,
always the same?
That would be a smart thing to do.
yes, the Myconids have a limited degree of magics that allow them to move stone, move earth. Um, Stool won't actually go into the absolute details of exactly how they hide the entrance. Um, Suffice to say that he can find it regardless of how it is hidden.
Hmm. I say we offer her to take her there with us, but I mean, we don't even know where it is right now, right?
No, no, no. You're just following Stool, and he sets this off
Yeah.
in the direction of the exit out of this cavern.
Hmm.
Well, yeah,
Um,
it's not like we can give her a map anyway. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. So then, how do you want to be paid for the information?
what kind of information is she offering?
Oh, um, uh, she can offer information about. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me do this in character. Well, I happen to have some um, minor magics at my disposal. I can sense within a radius of about 200 feet any creatures that might exist in the area. I happen to also have some other spell-like abilities, the ability to remove curses, the ability to heal wounds, the ability to divine magical objects, which narratively would mean the identify spell. Um,
Oh, how convenient.
Yeah.
I also am aware of any hazards that are in the area, such as geological disturbances, um, natural gas leaks, volcanic lava,
So
so on
she's a
and so
druid,
forth.
right?
You haven't
Can...
asked.
Oh,
We
well,
don't even
okay.
know her name.
No, you don't know anything about her. You haven't asked any questions in that
All right,
direction
well,
yet.
we'll extend the formal introductions then. Explain who we are and what our classes or whatever.
Okay. Everybody takes turns introducing themselves to her. Your name, your profession, just a teeny bit about who you are. Um, and she listens intently. And once everybody has introduced themselves, um, she says, "Well, my name is Maven Delve. Um, I have lived in this section of the Underdark for ages. I was transported here against my will um, by a by an adventurer, um, and he was not a good person. And when he found that he could not overcome me, he opted instead to banish me, and I was unable to resist after such a long battle. Um, and here I am. So I've been unable to find my way back to the surface, back to my territory, my home. So instead, I've simply chosen to make my home here and try my best to, make out a living. And, until now, I actually haven't come across any other adventurers. And, I'm sure you're nice people, but you might understand that I'm perhaps a little nervous with your presence. So,
Oh, that isn't very good. Damn.
okay, I've
I'll
rolled
give that
for.
a try and do terrible again.
Someone
Yes.
roll good. Jeez.
What are we rolling? Insight?
Yeah.
Save us, Eric.
Melrath did it. Oh, actually, Bob did it.
Okay.
Sometimes.
So I know what she got. So Bob and Melrath are paying the closest attention, and they're watching for any parts of her story that don't line up, and any visual cues that she might not be telling the truth. Um, she she's not lying. However, she is obviously not telling you everything. And I don't necessarily mean that to say that she's maliciously trying to um, obscure information, but I do mean she had mentioned that she was a bit nervous about adventurers, and so it seems like that may have motivated her to not tell you every last thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it was kind of curious how she mentioned the prior adventure story and how she couldn't be overpowered or something. That was a little.
Oh, do you want to ask for more details?
Um. Oh, did she get to her profession?
Oh, she actually claims to not really have one. So her story is as follows. Well, I grew up with my mother and father. We were out very far from any towns or villages. They lived alone together on the edge of a wood, and they had this cabin. And when I was very young, just 12 years old, they both died. They were torn apart by a dire bear. Um,
Oh.
and I alone managed to hide myself underneath the floorboards, and it destroyed the hut. It destroyed everything I'd ever known in just a few swipes of its claws. And as a child, I was born with some innate magical gifts, um, but I've never really understood where they came from. And so um, they've grown a little bit as I've gotten older. So in the end, since I didn't have any place to go and I didn't see any reason that I should live where I or leave where I had lived, I did my best to put the hut back together and just sort of continue my life as it were. Um, and at one point, an adventurer came along. His name was Narath, and when he showed up, um, he showed up and started demanding information about the area, which was very rude. And I told him that I wasn't seeking, or I wasn't open to having him in my home, and asked him to leave. At which point he drew his short sword and held it at my throat, insisting that if I didn't tell him, he would slit it. And then he started asking if I had any valuables, said he would take those too for his trouble. And so at that point, I jumped backwards and we started a fight. And we exchanged blows. And in the end, after he had exhausted me at that point, and a last attempt to prevent me from, continuing my assault, he banished me. And here's where I ended up.
Iraq, you said?
Iraq. Or no, I'm sorry. Let me type it out.
Different guy. Okay.
Yes, not the same person that you knew earlier.
All right. Is there any way that okay, Nara. Is there any way that one of us would be able to roll to see if we could figure out? I mean, has anyone come across a savant, as it were, whatever this person is?
Oh, that's a good question. Why don't you roll Arcana? That should give you some insight into creatures with innate magical effects.
Nice, 25.
Everybody. Ooh, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think
Um,
anyone else needs to roll.
no, I don't think so.
Yeah, no.
Snake, Snake is actually fairly familiar with it. Nagas, um,
Hmm.
at times when they are born, especially due to some of the gods that they worship, sometimes they can be born with innate spell-like abilities. And those abilities often manifest like when they're really young, like just 2 or 3 years old, um, in some sort of uncontrolled fashion. They are considered by the Naga people to be gifts from the gods, something not to be, or something to be celebrated and nurtured. And so in this particular case, your best, there's a couple of reasons she might have powers. Sorcerers, for example, are born with the innate ability to use magic. Their abilities grow very steadily as they, experience the world and become more powerful. However, a lot of people think that most of the time sorcerers gain uh, magical abilities through their blood. Meaning, if in the past a dragon fucked your mom, um, you could you could
Hey, it's
have
totally normal.
it. Actually, it is totally normal, and that's the disturbing part. A lot of dragons, when they reach a certain age, almost all of them gain the ability to polymorph. And being able to
Oh, okay.
polymorph, they can transform themselves into a humanoid form. Now, the problem is that while you appear to be humanoid, if you were, for example, to try to gut a human that is actually a dragon, aside from disrupting the polymorph, none of the organs or anything else are in there correctly. So you still have dragon DNA. And so when
Hmm.
a polymorph dragon and a regular humanoid fuck, that's how you get this particular effect.
The way you said it was so just nonchalantly that I just.
Yeah, yeah, I did that on purpose. Um, other possible sources of magical effects include when a child is born, like at the moment of their birth. On occasion, there are instances where planar energies suddenly flare up in the vicinity, and that touches the child. Now, that is supposedly what accounts for tieflings and Azamar, but
Hmm.
it can also create um, Ganazi, when Ganazi did not exist like as part of a familial line. It can create actually that's really kind of it. Like there's elemental energies, water, air, fire, and earth, and then there are fiendish energies and celestial energies, and those are the different types of creatures that you can get in that way. All of those creatures have some innate spell-like abilities.
And I
So
would assume, since you already mentioned that she can remove curses, that she might have some sort of celestial heritage. Just a guess.
it is a guess. Unfortunately, she herself does not actually know.
Okay, well, Snake is going to share what he could observe with her anyway.
Okay. She seems very surprised by the information. Um,
Well,
she's
Snake is one of them too, so he can
Oh, no,
explain
no,
that.
no. Let me back up. When I say that she's surprised by the information, um, she reveals that you, as a party, you guys are like the 10th people she's ever spoken to in her entire life.
Oh,
So Like all of this is news to her. She doesn't really have an educational background. Um,
So she's dumb.
no, no, no. She's quite sharp. But she's
She's a
just
diamond in the rough.
yeah, she's just not educated.
She could become our newest Avenger.
Can we get her to uncurse that ring?
Um,
Maybe for taking her
Well,
to what's its butt?
uh,
also identify it as well.
well,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Identify is easier than curse, so you should probably ask her to just do that.
So, she's willing
But
to.
have we? I'm sorry. Hang on. Have we agreed that we want to take her to Neverlight Grove?
Yeah,
That's a good
why not?
question.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I don't see a compelling reason not to, given the precautions that they already have, and given that she's not
Yeah.
drow or something.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So at this point, Maven sort of listens to your proposal and what you would like her to do in exchange for the information. She says, "Well, um, I'm a little hesitant to leave my home unguarded. However, um, I can't say that I've really come across an awful lot in the way of people um, in the past 6 or so months that I've been down here. So aside from, wandering Umber Hulks or other Underdark monstrosities, it'll probably be fine in my absence. Um, but,
Should we? Could we offer to let one of our NPCs or a couple of them stay, or?
oh, that's an interesting point. Let me think about how she would react to that. And she says,
Given that our NPCs are an orc, a drow, a halfling, and a goblin, I'm not sure she
Well,
would.
we can leave the halfling then.
she says, really, it's very kind of you to offer. I'm a little understandably hesitant about having people in my living quarters after my last experience, so I'm going to trust you in as much that I will travel with you.
Okay.
But if
Do we have a ward spell that we could cast, or I don't?
Good
Probably
question.
not.
let me check Tristan. There's a chance that he
Yeah,
might
he
have
would probably
something,
be the one.
if anyone.
What's
Let's
what's
see.
a word spell?
Well, just something that I don't know. I don't think we've come across them yet.
You haven't. There is a spell in the library, and I'm going to do a quick check of the PHB because I know the words that I need to look for.
Is it
Where
wording
was
bond?
it? Okay. Hold on a second. And then this is 6. Okay. And then this one, yeah, that's okay. So here's the answer. There is a spell school called Abjuration. Abjuration is a wizard spell school that allows one to cast protective magics. And I'm sorry, I say it's a wizard spell school. Technically, there are abjuration spells that fall under like clerics and druids and things like that. It really is just a spell school, and it's mostly involved with protection. So like protection from energy, things like that. At third level, the first glyph that becomes available is the glyph of warding. When you cast
Hmm.
this spell, you inscribe a glyph that needn't be but can be harmful to other creatures. And then you can cast it upon a surface, such as a table or a section of floor or wall, or within an object that can be closed, such as a book, a scroll, or a treasure chest, to conceal the glyph. The glyph can cover an area no larger than 10 feet in diameter, and if the surface or object is moved more than 10 feet from where you cast the spell, the glyph is broken and the spell ends without being triggered. The glyph is nearly invisible and requires a investigation check against your spell save DC to be found, making it very effective against thieves. You can decide what triggers the glyph when you cast the spell. So for glyphs inscribed on a surface, the most typical triggers include touching an object or standing on the glyph, removing an object, covering the glyph, approaching within a certain distance of the glyph. Those are different types of triggers that you can get. And if
Explosive runes, yeah, they're pretty powerful.
yes, explosive runes allow you
Hmm.
you can cause a creature to take 5d8 acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage on a failed saving throw and half as much on a successful one. You can also create a spell glyph that allows you to store a prepared spell of third level or lower in the glyph casting is part of creating the glyph, and then when it's triggered,
Hmm.
if there's a save, they have to save against it. And so the glyph of warding, generally speaking, as a third level spell, is used by a lot of players to kite monsters.
Right.
Or actually,
Yeah.
sometimes people, my other party, they created a glyph of warding that had invisibility on it. So when you stood on top of the glyph, it would cause the character to go invisible, and it didn't take an action.
Hmm.
So,
Neat.
anyways, that's glyph of warding, and then the short other thing, glyphs and wards are a 6th level spell. You create a ward that protects 2,500 square feet of floor space. The
Nice.
warded area can be up to 20 feet tall and shaped as you desire. It can ward several stories of a stronghold by dividing the area among them. And when you cast a spell, you specify individuals that are unaffected by it. You can also create a password, and then
Cool.
you can cause it to make areas fill with fog. You can ward doors within that area, and you can make stairways be filled with webs if anyone tries to use them that isn't supposed to.
Hmm.
So those are the types of wards that one would be able to put into place. But you guys,
Abjuration School sounds fun. I just want to play like Dungeon Defender for the rest of the game.
actually, to be really honest, when 5th edition first came out, everybody was really eager to play all the different character classes, and everybody argued that Wizard Abjuration School was the most broken because every time you cast any sort of defensive spell, you create a magical glyph actually as part of your class feature, and the glyph gives characters temporary hit points and then continues to grow in size as they level up. And so eventually you can give people like 20, 30 extra hit points and just, stick it on any character. If the glyph absorbs 30 points of hit points and it takes damage before the character does, anytime you cast an abjuration spell, you can just refresh it to almost full hit points. It's like 10 for the level of the spell.
Nice.
It's really, really, really good. So, anyways.
I need to kill my character so I can change classes, guys.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So, anyways, sorry that took so long, but that's the answer to your question.
Thanks. It was interesting, at least to me.
Does-
So I don't care about anyone else.
Wow. Does Tristan have that spell?
I don't actually know if Tristan has the ability to cast third level. Yes, he does. He does not have the spell. He has the ability to cast third level spells. Why is it not? Oh, there it is. He has haste and melts minute meteors. So either the next time he levels, or perhaps the next time you guys are in a place where third level spells can be obtained via scrolls, he would be able to get that glyph if you
Okay.
guys wanted.
Cool.
So, anyways, in the meantime, unfortunately, you have nothing that would allow you to protect the hut as is.
Oh, we were going to protect her hut. I thought we were going to protect ourselves.
No. Although you could also do that with a glyph, and that's a good reason to have some.
Huh.
Also,
Okay.
do keep in mind that for future reference, like the glyph of warding, explosive rune, is a very serious threat, and I mentioned it earlier because it can't be detected by like perception. When you're like checking a chest to see if it's safe. So oftentimes thieves will like be like, "There's no trap here," and they flip open the lid, and then their heads are blown off.
But it is detected by fine traps, thankfully.
Yes.
All right. Well, if she's all right with it, then
You guys will bring her along. She's fine with going with you. She's opting to take the time, and she expresses that her hope is to essentially be good neighbors with the whatchamacallums, with the
Myconids?
Myconids, in hopes
The
that
Mycon.
will lead to a positive effect for her. Sorry, I was cleaning something up.
She's just lonely, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Up until she eats us.
Well, actually,
She needs some fixer-upper loving.
Hey, that filter of love you guys have.
Just get Seraph to make out with her for a bit.
Oh, geez. Sarah.
Finally found an appropriate target for that filter of love. So it
Can we do that? I mean, I really want to try this potion.
I
Oh
mean,
no.
if you guys can convince her to drink it, it's a whole bunch of men offering her a strange potion that she's
Who
never
wouldn't
seen
drink
And
it?
she
before.
has innate abilities, but don't worry, guys. Just go for it.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of signs here that this is gonna go well.
But yeah, will she at least identify the ring for us?
Oh. So here's what she's willing to do. Um, she's willing to identify the ring now as sort of an upfront payment for the information, choosing to trust you, mostly because you outnumber her and she's trying to show a little good faith in that regard. If it turns out that the ring is cursed, um, if it turns out the ring is cursed, she's willing to uncurse it, but she's only willing to do that when you make it to the location.
Okay,
Is that
that
fair?
makes sense. Yeah,
That sounds fair, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to identify the ring now. Where is it?
this is
Sarah?
exciting.
All right, check your inventory.
Down boy.
Ooh, ring of free action.
And here is what the ring itself looks like.
Wow, this is pretty powerful. Okay, I'll explain it to the group.
Please.
When you wear this ring, difficult terrain costs no extra movement. In addition, here's the important thing: magic can neither reduce your speed nor cause you to be paralyzed or restrained.
Mm.
It's very valuable, of course, at 501 to 5,000 GP.
hmm And so at this point, the fixer-upper is welcome to keep it. If you guys want to distribute it to someone else that you think would make good use of it, by all means. But yeah,
Wow, that's pretty powerful.
it's
Nice.
very powerful. Free action, by the way, is a spell. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's actually a 5th level spell. I'm going to check it out real quick. It's under cleric. Freedom of movement. That's a spell, and it's a 4th level abjuration spell.
Now, hold person. What's the save on that for?
Wisdom.
Oh, it is wisdom. So I should probably get rid of it and give it to someone with a bad wisdom save.
You can. Also, there's one thing that I just want to point out real quick, just in case anybody looks up freedom of movement. The spell freedom of movement is actually ever so slightly better than the ring, because anybody that has freedom of movement cast on it can spend 5 feet of movement to automatically escape any non-magical restraints, such as manacles, a creature that has it grappled, webs, anything
Wow.
like that. And finally, being underwater imposes no penalties on the target's movement or attacks for freedom of movement only.
So basically, once we get access to the spell, we should sell the ring. That's what you're saying.
No, I mean, the truth of the matter is, while it lasts for an hour, freedom of movement on the ring is a persistent effect. So it has
okay.
value. I just want to point out that it's not word for word the same as freedom of movement in case you guys get it later and go, oh, I have these extra effects. No, you don't.
Okay. What's your wisdom, Eric?
It's 12.
Does anyone have lower than that?
Oh, you know what? I can actually answer that question. Give me just a second.
I have a whopping 10.
Snake has 10, Tazarath has 10, and then Melrath and Bob are the next highest characters at 12.
Tazarath, you primarily melee, right?
Primarily, whenever I actually get a turn with
All
my
right.
abysmal.
Since you're always setting off traps, getting stuck, falling into things, we'll give it to you. This will just enable you to have the freedom to move into more things and fall down, get into traps, hurt yourself.
I mean, all in all, it's not going to help your, miserable dexterity and general bumbliness. So yeah.
We want you to run into more traps this way. So okay.
Okay, so the Ring of Free Action has been relocated to Tazarath's inventory. I don't.
Wonderful.
There it is. Okay. I don't know that the Ring of Free Action will prevent paralyzed effects and stuff. So we may.
Oh wait, is it cursed? Did we find that out?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, as a result of the identification, it's totally cursed and Tazarath is doomed.
Why do you think I gave it to him? Ha
No,
ha ha. Ha.
I'm joking. I'm absolutely joking.
Yeah.
No, it's not cursed at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if Identify did that or not.
It reveals the curse, right?
It reveals the curse. Yes, every
Okay.
time. Also, Maven actually looks like she looks almost a little disappointed. Um, because she was kind of hoping that it would actually be cursed, so she could deal with it at the other end. But now she's kind
Yeah,
of
that makes sense.
giving you everything up front. So
Or she just wanted to see us cursed.
yeah,
Mwah.
I mean that could also totally be the case, but as is. So yeah, yeah, Fixer Upper, you basically confirm what I ended up telling you. So at this point, Maven, collects up the fungus that she has with her, and
Do you like the taste of feet?
it's actually become quite an acquired experience in
Mhm,
Yanzigard.
mhm.
Um, you know, I had met an adventurer or two in my time that seemed particularly enamored with seafood, which I never
I
quite
thought you were
got
going to say
myself.
feet.
That would have been funnier. I wish I had thought of it. Um, but anyways, so to each their own. I guess I understand now how someone might be um, into into this food. She looks at it unappetized. Um, anyways, at this point, it's 9:02, and this is a great leaving off point. So from here, now that Maven is part of the party, she is, for the purposes of this, going to be NPC, or sorry, a non-combatant, in the same way that Stool is. Um,
Okay.
and actually, I really should have mentioned this before, just in case it changes any conditions. Um, Part of her agreement to come with you is that she will not participate in any combat, and that you need to protect her as part of any combat that may occur.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll think about it.
I mean,
No,
she can remove curses, which makes her valuable in itself.
yeah, yeah. I really
Yeah.
can't disagree with that. So she can also heal. Um, but anyways,
Oh, I didn't think about that. So people can still attack her. She just won't attack anyone else.
Um, here's how it's gonna happen. If in the event you guys come into a combat and two characters go down, I will put a lettered token on the field to represent her, at which point she will be considered vulnerable. Does that seem fair? And
Okay.
then under other
Fair enough.
circumstances, you don't have to worry about it. And the reason I want to do it this way is if you come across a character that can just straight up cast Fireball, then you guys are just like immediately fucked. There's nothing you can do. Like she just
Hmm.
dies. So I'm going to tie it to the number of characters that are up. So if two people go down, then we'll say, oh, there's not enough people to cover her, and then she hits the battlefield and you have to worry about her.
I see.
Okay.
Okay. So at this point, I'm going to thank you guys for playing.